There's an error. So it didn't go live. I'm going to try it again. Let me make sure it's not no, let's see. Okay. Oh, it looks like we are live. Okay, we were having technical issues, but we are live now. Try it again for us. I didn't have to redo it. Welcome, everybody. Happy holidays. There are a lot of holidays going on in the next week or two. We're going to talk about them today because 'tis the season for holiday stress. And that's why Jennifer Kilman is here with us today. We're going to talk all about holiday stress, what causes it, what we can do about it. Some things we can do ahead of time, some things we have to be prepared to do when these stressors occur. Welcome, Jen. Thank you for joining me.
Such a pleasure. And I love talking with you in advance of today. And let's just get to it. This is fun. And we can actually, hopefully at the end of this, we can reframe it and it be called holiday de-stress because it doesn't have to be stressful.
There you go. Holiday de-stress. I want to remind people that if you have a question or comment, go ahead and put it in the comment section and Jen will address that live today on Tuesday. Okay. Tell us a little bit about your work, Jen.
So I've been doing this work for about 30 years, a little bit over than that. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, specializing in relationships, mental health, parenting. I never like to say expert because we're all on the same journey, learning, growing, changing, and there's no one way to do something. There's no one size fits all, and there's no such thing as perfection. There's communicating, there's being vulnerable, learning and growing within your relationships. And that is the expertise right there.
Thank you.
And I'm also, one of my favorite things that I love to do is I'm an expert on justanswer.com, which is an online platform where people can come write in questions on any topics. But of course, I love the ones dealing with mental health, relationships, and parenting. And they can get an expert like me and we can chat. We can go through whatever holiday stress or other things are going on and work through it. It's an incredible platform worldwide.
That sounds very special. So we're going to have the link in the comment section if that's something that you would like to access. I love the idea of that. Okay, I want to begin with, everybody thinks they know what a holiday stress is, but how does a holiday stress differ from regular stress?
Well, it's all part of a continuum. So I think most of us on a daily basis could feel stress, worry, and anxiety for different things. The holidays kick it into a higher gear because of connections that exist, getting together with different family members, different friends, and going back to what I said at the beginning with perfection, this desire to have everything go in the most perfect way. You and I joked about being flexible. And if there's a lot of flexibility, then the stress could come down. But you're asking a great question. Why are holidays so stressful? Why does it trigger that next gear? Mm-hmm. And again, it's about what are we bringing to the table, for a silly pun? What kinds of past experiences exist in our lives around the people that we might be spending time with that causes those feelings of worry and anxiety, fear, or wanting to get it over with quickly and check off the box. Okay, I got through Christmas dinner and things weren't as bad as I thought. But it's really about the connections that exist within it that can increase. Sure, there is not a one size fits all, and someone might have a different kind of stress. Will I drop the ham on the floor this year like I did last year? Not me personally, I didn't make the ham, but other people might have a different level of stress. And there's no one that is more stressful than the other because it's particular to that individual and what's going on for them during these times.
Okay. Now we are your teen for parents. So that means we're talking about families and teens and tweens. And when we talk about families and the holidays and things that may cause stress, we have divorce, blended families, new loves, in-laws, multiple generations getting together and they may not do it any other time of the year, interfaith families, cross-cultural, politics, moody people, especially those teens, and then toxicity, which is something that we throw out there, but it means what? And how does all of this conflate to making our holidays stressful? What can we do about it?
So there's a lot in that, and all of
Yeah.
those buzzwords are true for a lot of people. And so if we just look at toxicity or toxic family members or toxic families in total, it's really how families relate to one another and to others in the world. So, for example, you might go to your parents' home, um, or as a teenager, going along with your parents to good old Aunt Betty's house.
Mhm.
And Aunt Betty might not be someone that is tough to deal with for some members of the family, but you know, when you go see Aunt Betty, she corners you and wants to know all about your life and what you're doing and how your grades are in school. Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? And that could encourage stress. That's not toxic per se, but it could be feelings of worry and anxiety, knowing, oh God, Aunt Betty always corners me. But then there's the next level with an Aunt Betty type, which is perhaps gossiping about other family members that aren't in the room, gossiping, talking poorly about other people in the world, of course, politics. Um, more of late, those kinds of conversations can be difficult for people to sit through because most people just want to enjoy the connection without maybe things being so deep, so toxic, and just get through those moments and deal with their expectations, and temper those to the actual reality of how families relate, because it's all about how families relate. You're bringing something else up in terms of blended families or divorced families and negotiating those spaces. Who's spending time with what parent during which holiday? Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Hanukkah, doesn't really matter, but how those are managed by the parents. And one of the things I always say, and I mentioned this to you when we first spoke, is let's make sure if there are divorced families that the parents aren't playing out the marital issues that existed through the times of divorce. And what do I mean by that? If the issues that existed while two people were married and now they're finally separate and living their own lives and are happy, but now have to come together to negotiate spaces such as children going back and forth or who's going to spend what where, and that you don't dig at the other person, or that the old triggering issues that existed back then when you were married are still getting played out now. So that's what I mean by that. Hopefully that made sense.
It did, and it reminded me of something, a term that I heard recently, during this month. It's, amicable divorce, and it's for the whole family, and if you are considering, ending a marriage, that there's counseling for that. You can have a coach for that or so that when you end it, because especially if you have children, you're still family, right? If you have children with someone, you're family forever. So having an amicable divorce doesn't just mean, oh, we agreed on how to split the property. You go in before all of this is done so that you have a working relationship with each other, and that you don't end the marriage um, with dislike or even hatred, and that you have a plan on how you're going to move forward that is beyond the, okay, these are my dates, this is what you pay, etc., but really how we're going to relate to each other. I thought that was wonderful. And then something else you said is that reminded me, like, we go into these, I did it a lot when our guys were like applying to college and stuff. um I would let it be known that there were certain things that we're just not going to talk about in case Aunt Betty came and cornered, because that happens a
Poor
lot,
Aunt
right?
Betty. Poor Aunt
It's
Betty. I
poor
hope
Aunt
no one
Betty.
out there has an Aunt Betty.
But when you have your teen is applying to college, or they're trying for something, whatever it is, sometimes they get overwhelmed with well-meaning questions, and I would keep an eye out for it and try to redirect the conversation. And if the person was persistent, I would actually just say, we're not going to talk about that right now, because your young person is respecting their elders, so they're probably not going to say that. But I did it for them. We're not going to talk about that right now, or I'm going to let them make their choice over time. We're not, today is not the day for that.
Each time you and I speak, you always bring up such great things that trigger buzzwords in my brain. And so, what you're really talking about there, the overall buzzword for that is having good boundaries
Mhm.
and setting those boundaries and maintaining them for what works for you. we can't control when someone else tries to overstep or step into what's comfortable for you. But having a boundary, which is not hurtful to another person, although they might receive it that way, but it's about protection. So in the case of what you're saying with someone going to college or a teenager where poor Aunt Betty is drilling them with well-meaning questions that they could feel overwhelmed, to just say, even a simple statement of, you know what, I'm just here to enjoy the time connecting, but some of those questions bring up a lot of overwhelm for me because I've got a lot going on. I love that you're interested, Aunt Betty, but I don't want to go there right now. Let's just, pass the turkey kind of thing. But I also want to, so the boundaries are very important, and it's okay. A lot of people have difficulty setting boundaries because they feel that they are hurting another person, but they're not. And good boundaries allow for good, healthy communication among family members, and boundaries can be respected when you set them well for what works for you. I want to circle back though to what you just said about the amicable divorce.
Mhm.
And that is, people can have the best of intentions to go through a very painful divorce with the desire for things to be amicable. And I loved what you said, that people should get into therapy if things feel difficult. We don't know the reasons why divorce happened. So without knowing, we can't just have a catchphrase that everyone should be amicable going through it, because we are left with a lot of feelings. There could be infidelity, dishonesty, whatever it may be, where it's not so simple to just say, let's do this amicably. But it can be helped by getting into therapy and going through that and making a really strong, concerted effort to not play it out in front of the children. Everyone is entitled to have their feelings and their vulnerabilities that they are left with, in this case through a divorce, but let's not play it out and continue to dig and play out those difficult feelings, especially through the children. So both things can be true. We can desire to have the amicable divorce, doesn't always mean it goes that way. Certainly get into therapy, go to a place like justanswer.com for a quick come in and come out and get your answers. But when you feel yourself going after your ex in front of the children or to the children, try to give a pause there, take a deep breath, and know that this is not in the best interest of the children moving forward. And that also, because we're going back to holiday stress, will allow for some de-stressing to happen around it, especially for divorced or blended families going into that environment. There is stress and how's it going to go? Is my ex introducing a new partner to my children? How should I prep them in advance? Oh no, and feeling just overwhelmed.
Yeah. What are you hearing from teens about holiday stress? Because we're thinking about it from the adults' perspective, because we are the adults
Mhm.
and the adults raising them. But what are you hearing from teens? What we think is causing them stress may not be what they're stressful about.
Well, all of our kids, like us as adults, have been through a lot these last couple of years. And so gatherings have changed over time. And if kids have had less contact socializing with friends, there might be a bigger push to move away from the family and spend more time at a friend's house. And so you mentioned something early on when it was just the two of us chatting about flexibility. We as parents, while we want to spend time with our children, to allow that flexibility of the coming and going. So maybe there's a healthy balance there. I don't know if that's an oxymoron, healthy balance, but it could be. If there's a healthy balance with giving our teens, or really listening to our teens with what they're needing and wanting and desiring, and coupling that with, okay, so now we're going to have some family time. We're going to sit with Aunt Betty and get through it. And then we're going to give you what you need in terms of socialization and independence. Because they need that as teenagers, they need it. Maybe harder for us as the adults or the parents to give over to that because we want them with us the whole time. But again, communication is key and boundaries are key. If families communicate openly and honestly, you'll have an easier time getting through things. You might not always love what you hear, but at least be open to hearing it and not quickly reacting. I remember when, prior to having children, my sister had said to me, the best piece of advice I can give to you is when your child asks you a question and you want to jump in and quickly answer with some sort of reaction, pause, count to 10, and then go back into the experience.
That's really, really hard. I love what you said about connection because I think that we as parents, especially around the holidays, we are thinking about everybody else's needs and what we have to do when there's a lot going on. And, you were already doing a lot in life, and then you add the holidays, and it's just a whole lot. But parents should communicate their needs to their teens also. I found that once I started saying to my sons, I need a game night during this break. I need to spend time with you, college student who's only home for a certain amount of time. When can we do that? What can we do? That they will honor that. And over time, I don't, I do have to ask, but I don't have to fight because you're negotiating it in the beginning because it's different. And at the end of the Thanksgiving break recently, I heard my college student mutter. He wasn't speaking to me, but I heard him mutter as he walked away after making plans to do something with me. I got it. I got everybody okay. Everybody said, I've got this. I've got it all good. And I was thankful that he was paying attention. I made sure that I spent time with my mom. I made sure that I got the girlfriend in. I made sure that I have the high school friends in. But they don't know to do that right away. So we have to tell them we have needs too, so that they put us on their schedule.
That's phenomenal. And I want to elevate that a little bit more. That goes back to what I just said in terms of having open and vulnerable communication around your needs and around boundaries. But I want to elevate it a little bit more. That it's not just telling our children, our teenagers, college age kids, whatever it may be, what our needs are, but maybe add the why to it. Because to just state to, especially a teenager who's in a more self-centered space, and that's age appropriate, the world revolves around them. To just express your need, they could easily, slough that off and be like, okay, big deal, you've got a need. But guess what? My needs are so much greater. And they are in their world. Their needs are greater. But if you can elevate that one extra sentence and say, so this is my need, and maybe where you are in your space of development, don't really care about my needs, but connecting with you around game night and laughing with you enriches our connection. And then I feel good, and I know you feel good, so that when you're out there with your friends, you remember that this is a safe, wonderful place for you as well. And know that we are your safe harbor if things out there are tough. So again, not just the need, which is wonderful, but maybe what the need does, not just for you as a parent, but also for them as a teenager, because again, their world is very focused and narrow on themselves and their friends, which it should be. We want to be able to give them those that sense of foundation where they can expand their wings and go out and do it and come back when they need to.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to elevate it and let them know. How do we help them deal with their holiday stress? What can we do for them?
So their holiday stress could be exactly what you heard your son muttering. Okay, I've got my mom, I've got my girlfriend, I've got my schoolwork that my professor at college assigned me over break. I don't know why he did that, she did that. I got this, I got this, I got this. Checking in with them. That we just assume that our children are okay if they're walking around sort of muttering or smiling periodically. This goes back to the communication. Check in with them. Are they going to be always forthright and open and crack you on the back and say, oh, mom, thank you for asking me. Here's what I want to emote? Probably not. There might need a little more fishing and pulling from it, but you're communicating to them that you are open and available without necessarily being Aunt Betty and pushing. So checking in with them about their holiday stress and where we as parents might be adding to it, because we might be adding to their stress by noticing that they've been seated next to Aunt Betty. For anyone out there who has an Aunt Betty, I apologize. I don't know why this person's name has come to my brain, but she has. So, but again, being silly. And this is also my flavor. I use a lot of humor in my work with clients. I find humor is great with teens and adolescents. If you can get them laughing, you can get them talking. So as much as you can communicate with your teenager, again, not just about what your own needs are, but about what they need, and that you really hear them, and not, and I'm guilty of this as well with my own, that we don't just ask them to tell us, but that we don't then just minimize it, that we actually really listen and give to them and hear what they need and try to provide that. Not like, okay, well, thanks for telling me what you need, but guess what? You are near Aunt Betty and just deal with it. But really listen to them. Because if you don't, and we don't respond to them, then we're showing them some mistrust. We've taught them, well, I just opened up to my parent, but they just shut me down and didn't take into account really my vulnerability and what I was feeling. Teenagers have feelings too, big feelings. And it doesn't mean we just minimize them. We have to pay attention to them. And in doing so, they learn from us that it's a place of trust, that when they're having some difficulty with a girlfriend, with a boyfriend, with a professor, with a friend, or with Aunt Betty, that they can come, flop on your bed or the couch at the end of the night and just de-stress. Does that make sense?
I think that is every parent's goal. That if your tween or teen can come into your room at the end of the night and flop on your bed and communicate, that you've done a good job. You talked about, some of their stresses, they want to spend time with their friends and stuff, but we know that this winter break, this holiday break is also for us to bond. It's for family bonding. So how can we balance their need for independence and our need for this family bonding? Because, maybe the parents who work outside the home, they have a couple of days off that they don't usually have in a rural, and they want to spend it with their family, but their tweens and teens want to be elsewhere. How do we balance this?
Well, both things can be true. We can spend wonderful family time and together time, and we can also allow them to have their wings a little bit. Can it get dicey, like you're saying in the example of, well, what if a parent or both parents only have a certain couple of hours or days off based on work schedules? So then bring that to your children and say, look, these are the days I'm off. So these are the areas that I'd like you to, block off for me on your calendar. And then after that, go be with your friend, go out and do this, but these are the days that really work, and I hope within that we can structure something that works for all. Because, and again, all of us are guilty. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. There's only parenting that is your style, that works for your family, and what might work for you might not work for another family. But what we do know is communication is at the foundation of all healthy relationships. Without it, there isn't. So be open, but it's no one person's needs in the family that supersede everyone else's. So sit around with schedules, calendar on the floor, and say, okay, look, I'm working this day, these days, I'm working these hours. So you're free to go do what you want then. But on Tuesday, I'm out. And then your son, to use your son as an example again, says, oh, mom, but that's the night I'm supposed to be going to my girlfriend's, and that's the only night her parents are around. So you might have to wind your way through that little dicey area and say, okay, so Tuesday night you want to go be with the girlfriend, but Tuesday day, can we reserve that? Can we go down to wherever, the mall in whatever, or walk around, ice skate, whatever it might be, flop on the couch, watch a movie. And so you might need to tailor it based on everyone else's individual needs and come together with that healthy balance that we're all striving for.
So what I heard was expectations, communication, and negotiation. How'd I do?
Yes, absolutely. And boundaries.
And boundaries. I'm going to add that to my list. And boundaries. Okay.
And I want to expand on that a little bit, because a lot of people have said to me, I get this question a lot on Just Answer, is I'm going to my in-laws home and my in-laws are toxic, or my husband's brother is always drunk during these things. How do I get through that? And so we go back to the boundaries. But I also want to say that it is acceptable to pick and choose the areas that you are going to engage in. just because someone else is intruding on a boundary and wants to engage in a disrespectful, gossiping, putting down others, politicking, whatever manner, doesn't mean you need to engage. And you can politely excuse yourself, either physically from the room, take a breather. Oh, I'm going to go help in the kitchen, or I want to go smell the fresh, clean, snowy air, or the actual boundary right there to say, this isn't comfortable for me. I'd like to move on from this conversation. So people, again, might feel worried to be able to disengage in a healthy way. But again, if things feel tough, if you are being triggered, if old traumas are coming to the surface, then do what is needed to do for yourself to get through those moments in a way that you aren't engaging in the old ways of relating, which then just kicks up all that dust, that traumatic dust. That's a great new buzzword I just came up with right now. Traumatic dust. Let's not kick up the old traumatic dust. And we can do that. We can keep that dust at bay by removing ourselves, by setting that boundary of knowing, uh-oh, I'm feeling something in my system right now. And this is not an area that's feeling most comfortable for me. Don't kick up the traumatic dust.
I like that, traumatic dust. We are at the end of our time together. Is there something, I know it goes quickly. Is there something that we didn't touch upon that you think we should have touched upon, or a message that you want to leave everybody as they're considering the holiday stress and they're doing the last minute shoppings for food and all this other stuff, or travel plans? People are starting to hit those airports.
So all of it. I mean, we've hit a lot. We could go on for another hour. I
Yeah.
want people that are here with us to leave with feeling, okay, I can get through this. What I heard Jen say was, there's no such thing as a perfect holiday. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. There certainly is no such thing as a perfect teenager. And with healthy communication, healthy boundaries, and engaging where it feels comfortable and disengaging where it's feeling uncomfortable, that's where you can negotiate and plan to keep your stress at a minimum and to allow flexibility. And if the ham falls on the floor and you have to order pizza, so be it. Laugh and enjoy. Use humor.
I love that. And remember what we were talking about, flexibility, because I said that is our family tradition. And I think that parents, you just need to pick your battles within your traditions. For example, last year, and this was not my choice, but my guys, all of them came to the Christmas Eve dinner table wearing athletic wear. We weren't having company. It was just the immediate family, and they decided they didn't have to dress. And as much as I wanted them to dress, I was like, okay, let me just leave it be. And we had a lovely, lovely Christmas Eve dinner. It was not picturesque because they were in athletic wear, but we just let it be. So maybe there's a lesson in that for other people. Now, mind you, I would have gone to the mat if we were having company, but we weren't.
But if I can ask you a question, why would you have gone to the mat there? Because, and I say that's somewhat of a rhetorical question, not that you need
Yeah,
to specifically answer it,
yeah,
but those are those moments where what's the gain there? Is it
yeah,
to prove to extended family or a company that you're doing it right, you're doing it perfectly, or you've allowed everyone to just be and be who they are and come who and how they are? You mentioned at the beginning that your home is open and flexible and anyone can drop in at the last minute. So if it's athletic wear or an evening gown, everyone gets
yeah,
to be who and how they are,
yeah.
because it is not the athletic wear or the evening gown that makes the night. It is the quality of the connection.
Absolutely. And they should be comfortable making that connection. You're right. You are absolutely right. Although I don't know.
That's work. We're all a work in progress. Remember, there's no such thing as I've got it. I've got it handled. It's a work in progress.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending time with us. There's good information in the comment section. So I encourage everybody to click on those links and read the comment section, because there's a lot of great, helpful tips there. Thank you for joining us, Jen.
It has been my pleasure, an absolute pleasure. I wish everyone a wonderful holiday season with very little stress.
Well, thank you to the de-stress season. And I want to remind everyone that on Thursday, we're going to have the inside scoop on Thursday when Franziska and Eka are talking to Sue Ann Brown about teens and etiquette, just in time for these holiday dinners and New Year's Eve events. Teens and etiquette. I'm going to see if I can get some pointers there and some good ways to, funnel those to my kids. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Goodbye.
Take care.